Hello and happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Father-Daughter Experience. I'm Celia.
And I'm Cesare.
And you know what? It is 92 degrees in Austin, Texas today, which means it is the perfect time to talk about fall and everything about it. The food, the vibes, Halloween, spooky season. What kind of fall goers are we? And do we buy into the kitsch of the fall season? So, first of all, something we kind of talk about quite a bit living here is that compared to the other places we've lived, East Coast, Kansas, Minnesota, Austin does not have the seasons in the same way. So where normally around this time there'd be like a little bit more of a chill in the air, we'd be cozying up with a good book and a hot apple cider, and the leaves would be starting to change. It is hot and gross and sunny, and you can go to the beach and you could swim, and the leaves are all green on the trees and nothing is dying yet. So today we're going to talk about how do we keep that fall spirit alive, and do we like it in Austin?
Yeah, I for one do have like the real strong memories of fall in New England. You spent a majority of your youth in Minnesota living there.
Unfortunately.
But I mean, growing up in New England, you very much get like the fall foliage. You get the they're probably not appropriate really now, but they were, when I was younger, they were called kind of like those Indian summer days, like in the fall where you're back to school, it's September or October, but then all of a sudden the heat pops back up and it's all of a sudden it's 82 degrees on like an October weekend. And you're just like, this is the best, because you can go to the beach. But I think in Texas, it is so much harder because at some point in December or January, it will maybe get cold again. But really, fall almost doesn't exist here in the way that you would in the traditional sense. We have just come into pumpkin spice season. That was like the big news for a lot of places, right? Like you can get those Starbucks drinks, but what's the sad part for you about now what you've now learned or have experienced and now has been bothering you? Would you like to share?
Yeah, of course. Well, so first off, I am a big fall girly. I love all things fall. I love to buy the candles. 2 months ago when Bath and Body Works got them in July, I immediately went and dropped too much money to have enough candles to have one in every room in my apartment. So I'm a fall girly. The issue is that starting around my sophomore year of college, I noticed when I would buy seasonal fall items that I would get these crazy rashes, and I've never had any allergies in like my whole life to anything. Other than I think like pine trees very briefly when I was like a baby.
Sure.
But I've never had like a food allergy. And so I was like, oh my God, like what is this? Like maybe I like brushed up against something. I thought it was everything else. And then I started to realize that when I would eat my like Belvita blueberry wafer like snacks after rowing, I'd be fine. But when I ate the like apple cinnamon ones, I would get this like absolutely insane rash. And to be honest, cinnamon's not in a lot of things. So it kind of fared that I never really discovered it for a while. And for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like cinnamon buns have ever like really affected me, or I've never noticed it because like I normally have like a cinnamon bun on my birthday. Like when I was growing up, you would make them.
Sure.
But very recently, when the fall drinks dropped at Dunkin', and I've just started like a new role where we're in office. I went to go get a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts because I had left early for once for work, so I had time. And I go through and I think I'm being smart and clever by being like, oh, well, the pumpkin spice drink just has like cinnamon topping on the whipped cream. So if I don't get the cinnamon topping on the whipped cream, I'll be fine. Like an idiot. Like the spice in my head.
You called me and you were like, what is in a pumpkin spice latte?
Because I took one sip and it was like an immediate reaction.
You knew right away.
I immediately knew I was going to be violently ill, like unwell.
And I remember laughing. I mean, I felt bad, obviously, laughing at you, but I remember thinking, like, what do you think is in the spice? And you're like, because I think we were actually having a phone call. We were actually having a conversation.
I was
and
driving to work.
You're like, I don't know, nutmeg.
Yeah, like I don't like
which is
star anise, things like that.
Which very likely are in there.
It is. Yeah, it's like nutmeg and like 3 other sort of like earthy like spices. Yeah.
Right. And cinnamon.
So it's definitely cinnamon because like I can have like other seasonal flavored things, and I'm fine if there's no cinnamon in them. But
and I remember
then a few days later, I texted you because Starbucks' drinks dropped, and there's like an apple crisp tart one.
Yeah, the
latte,
the new macchiato.
And I was like, well, surely there's not going to be cinnamon in this. And so I'm like Googling it, and at first I can't really find anything conclusive. So I'm like, I can probably get away with this.
Right.
And then I'm like in the app, and you can go to their nutrition section. And when I click into the app, sure enough, on the ingredients list in the spice section for it was cinnamon. And I was like, well, I'm going to get it anyway. And then to be fair, it was not very good, or the one I had wasn't very good.
Right.
But I still had it. And the funniest part was not this drink, but when I had gotten that pumpkin spice latte, I'd gotten a pretty big one. I'd gotten like a medium, which at Dunkin' is like an extra large anywhere else.
Especially if it's the iced version.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So it's like a jumbo drink. And I was like fighting demons, and the demons being my allergies the rest of that day. And I like sent like a Discord message to our office admin, and I was like, do we have any Benadryl or allergies? And she's like, why? Are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just like drinking something with cinnamon in it and I'm allergic. And she was like, you should stop. And I was like, no, I already bought it. I'm gonna finive the drink.
That weirdly is something that I think you got from me, because I've always,
and it was so awful. It was so bad.
I've only recently started drinking more iced coffee, but for the longest time I predominantly drank black coffee or coffee with some cream and sugar in it. And one of the things that used to be the bane of my existence was I would always order large Dunkin' Donuts coffees or extra, or a double X, like they have the XL, like the Dunkin' XLs. So anytime I would travel at an airport, I'd get the extra large Dunkin' coffee. More often than not, when I had my earlier jobs, I was on the road a lot, literally driving. Like I would drive through Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin and Illinois and the Dakotas. So I'd be in my car for 5-6 hours getting to some place and then driving all the time. The worst thing would be driving off the highway when you would see a Dunkin' Donuts, you'd get the coffee, it'd be really hot, so you couldn't drink it right away. So, and I would sometimes get ice, sometimes wouldn't, but you take that first sip and you realized, fuck.
Yep.
They burned this.
Yeah,
the coffee is burned. I got the end of the pot. It was sitting too long. Somebody didn't do their job.
But I'm going to finish it. I'm
going to choke down because I spent my $2.39 on this coffee. Time. I'm just saying, like for a general cup of coffee, I spent my two and change for just black coffee with cream and sugar, and now I'm pissed. But like I'm just gonna like rage drink this whole thing. Yep. So yeah, you definitely got that from me.
Yeah, well, and so kind of to go off of that, there's obviously a little bit of a stigma. Like girls in fall, you know, there's that, there's PSL. All those bits. The PSL girlies and pumpkin spice and everything nice and whatever. There's like lots of like memes and jokes about like white women enjoying the fall basically. But, as a white woman, guilty. First of all, I think fall is like, and into the like holiday season through the end of the year, it's just like, there's just like a magic. Personally, I think we should have more magical holidays at the beginning of the year, but I think like it's too late to establish anything. It
is really true now that you're saying that, right? Because but fall is the gateway. Fall is literally the gateway into like, you start with Halloween. Mm-hmm. You have Columbus Day, which is terrible, but then you have Halloween, and then you have Thanksgiving, right? And then you get out of fall into Christmas in the winter.
Yeah.
And we both took a fun BuzzFeed like
quiz.
What kind of fall person are you?
What kind of fall person are you?
I by no surprise fell into I am a foodie. Like the things I like the most about fall are things like pumpkin pie, absolutely cooking for Thanksgiving. Like what are you going to be doing in the fall, right? Like at Thanksgiving you'll be found doing what? And it's like making all of the things, like cooking all of the stuff.
Yep.
One of our earlier episodes when we did our 20 questions, we literally pulled the questions out of a ceramic gourd that I had bought, and I got like really geeked out over Thanksgiving last year. We like really did Thanksgiving big. And because Thanksgiving was big for my family when I was growing up, and we were always the house that had, I would say we were the house of the like kind of the misfit toys.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever called it that, but like that's how I envision it. Was just like we seemed to have all of like the people who either didn't live near their families or didn't have families showed up at our place. Sure. So I think fall has always had that strong draw for me. But like you said, it is the magic.
Yeah, and so mine was spooky, and while I don't necessarily agree with like the BuzzFeed description of it, it is about Halloween for me. I like Thanksgiving too, but I think Halloween is really where it's at. I start Halloween prepping like a year in advance. I'm already thinking about stuff. This year, I think I really started. Well, I've also been getting like more into cosplay, which like makes like dressing up year round very fun. But for Halloween,
For those that don't know, what is cosplay?
it's costume play, but it's specifically, that's what the word is a combination of, but it's specifically when you kind of take an eye for detail and you get like screen accurate costumes to characters. They don't have to be screen accurate because they can be book characters or whatever, but you dress as a character from a piece of media that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people like act as them and do those things, but I mostly just dress up like them and have fun.
Sure.
But like I knew every year I kind of pick like staple holiday or staple things to kind of go all out for. So my birthday is always one. Obviously, I do multiple things with that because
Lucky
I just
you,
think it's fun.
There's a spring.
There is a spring.
Holiday.
There's an April Fool's Day holiday on my birthday, which is April Fool's. So I like to do lots of things for my birthday, but even more than that, I like to do lots of things for Halloween. I'm like already like, so my friends and I are going to Six Flags, but like the Halloween stuff just started. So like there'll be the spooky things there. And then I'm like, okay, there's this haunted bar I want to go to. So I'm like making plans for that. And then two of my different friends are throwing 2 different Halloween parties. And so I remember the other day being now like weeks ago. I say the other day all the time. Like it wasn't a month past when this happened, but, I was like, me and my friends go to this dance club in town called Barbarella's, which is based off of the film Barbarella.
Right.
And that film is just...
And they constantly play the movie.
Yes,
like
it
on
plays
repeat,
in the background. Sometimes they switch it out for E.T., which is always weird when that happens, but it's usually Barbarella. And I mean, it's such like a good campy movie. I mean, Jane Fonda looks amazing, but I was like texting my friends and I was like, for when we go to like 80s night at Barb's for Halloween, should I like make a Barbarella costume? Like that could be really cool. And one of my friends was like, I don't know how you have money for this. And I was like, well, think of it like any other like craft or hobby.
Sure.
I'm not always throwing down like $200, $300, $500 on a costume at a time.
Sure.
That might ultimately be what I've wholly invested into something
But you find
by the end.
ensemble pieces.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like for a cosplay, like one of my Halloween costumes this year is going to be Misato Katsuragi from Evangelion. And she's somebody I've always wanted to cosplay, but I just bought a like nicer produced one and gave my measurements so that like the jacket would fit right.
Sure.
And that I bought like months and months and months ago and like just came like a few weeks ago because it has to be custom made and stuff like that. But then like my wig was like $12 and I styled it myself. So it's about buying those pieces. So Halloween and fall is about like the costumes and the spooks and
it's
then in it, yes, it's the events and the activities. Like I like, even though Austin and Texas don't necessarily have like those vibes, like the last 2 years, I've made it a point to pick out people and be like, let's carve pumpkins. Let's go pick out pumpkins.
Right.
Like even if we're not going to a pumpkin patch, like we're going to go pick out pumpkins. We're going to get stencils and scoop. And the vibe is just going to be, we're going to drink like mulled wine in like the chilled air. And because it does start to get a little chilly in October.
It can, yeah.
Or at least I've been lucky enough the last 2 years that it's been at least passably chilly, or like the leaves have started to fall.
It was cool. So you used to do, and you are going to be doing ghost tours.
Yes.
With kind of your own little startup that you're working on.
Yep.
But yeah, last year we actually did a ghost tour with you on Halloween, and you had gone kind of in like your full Scarlet Witch garb. So I think
even that's fun though. Like I think some people have this weird like aversion to costumes or like feeling like silly and stuff like that. And for me, I mean, even that Scarlet Witch, I got like a new wig for that a while ago that I want to wear that costume out again. So I like to find these occasions too, because like the costumes once they're done are like cool. And
Sure.
I want people to see them. I want to show them off because...
Well, the more events you go to, the more you can reuse certain things.
Absolutely. And then I feel justified and like, okay, it was okay that I spent... like my Scarlet Witch costume, I think only cost me like maybe $60 all in. And it looks really good. But I have other costumes that have probably cost me like $200 in terms of like things I've put into them, wigs, shoes, the makeup pieces, contacts.
So really fall for you means the scourge of cinnamon. And,
yes.
And then really the investment and payoff for kind of all of the Halloween. And
yes. In a way, I think I'm becoming the ultimate. I am honoring the witches of the past in that I am taking on many new appearances. I am truly honoring All Hallows Eve by dressing up as a ghoul, as many different ghouls to trick as many different little demons and spirits that have come up from the netherworld to haunt us, by taking on many different appearances.
Well, I think also it's been really funny because for me as a child, when I was growing up, I missed a lot of Halloweens.
Mm-hmm.
Like I missed a lot of fall and even really kind of Christmassy activities because I was dancing. So I was in the Nutcracker when I was younger. Mm-hmm. So in like those late, not, those late preteen years, like the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, those were all like those are your prime Halloween years as a kid. And I missed a lot of them. I was a ghost like 6 fucking years. Like my mom would literally cut holes in a sheet and I was like a shitty ghost. Which is so funny. Well, okay, that's where I'm going with this. Okay. This is where I'm going.
Sure.
So like I was a shitty ghost and I loved performing. I really liked being part of the Boston Ballet and doing all those things.
Yeah.
But I missed out on a lot of trick-or-treating, or I'd be like very late to the game. So for me, Halloween wasn't such a huge thing. I enjoy it now as an adult. I think it's fun when your mother and I have really gotten into like costumes on a few occasions and mm-hmm. we see those pictures and you're like, oh, that was really cool. We did so good there. When certain neighbors used to have like big Halloween parties, we lived next to some folks who like every year that was like their big thing. Mm-hmm. They set up like a month in advance and slowly built towards Halloween.
Right.
But I remember, so I think for for me, Halloween was never really a big thing. And then when we had you,
180.
Starting from the time you were really little, you were born in April. So like 6 months later, we literally took you around in like an Aristocats costume, mm-hmm. which was because we could put you in it and it was like a onesie. It was like a furry,
I was cozied up. Yeah.
In New England, we took you around to like see our friends' parents mm-hmm. who wanted to like see how you were doing because you were still very fresh and new.
A baby.
But then what really started to happen was as you got older, my mom, who was really good at costume design, and my dad, who was good at like, like the little, almost like the accessories mm-hmm. and the accoutrements, really got into like, I think, spoiling you in a way in terms of like, what does Celia want to be this year? And Mimi, my mom, your grandmother, would make you these super elaborate
insane costumes.
Right. So
I think a later in life skill I would like to develop is sewing. And by later in life, I mean like when I turn 25.
Yeah, you better start now.
When I have money to buy a sewing machine
I thought
again.
You have a sewing machine.
I don't have a sewing machine anymore.
You had one.
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time. Okay.
Well, we're going to cut that out because I sold it to my college roommate for $50. That won't be in this episode.
Okay. So where do we jump back in? So
a later in life skill I really want to develop is sewing because I had a sewing machine for a time and I just I never really picked it up, and then we moved a bunch and I think it got lost in one of the moves.
Sure.
And I just now that I'm into cosplay, I'm like, well, fuck, why don't I know how to sew?
Well, you have some friends who are like pretty good at it, yeah?
Yes. I have a couple friends like Megan who have like sewn for our theater and stuff like that, and so definitely people I could lean on in learning it. But
sure.
Even in that, I think my group, I think you guys and Mimi and Paparan really just like placed in me this seed to just fucking love Halloween.
Well, you can you can see it. So you can see it. I mean,
and my thing too is like, obviously we don't live near any of our friends who have younger kids anymore. But there was a time, like even in high school, where I was still like doing costumes and stuff. And like my friend Emma and I took like her niece and nephew, or like her cousins, who she was basically looking out for, like out trick or treating. And it was so fun because you still got candy because we still looked young enough to like, we obviously like weren't these kids' parents.
You look like the older
like siblings or something.
And nobody
So,
gives you any crap
correct.
about that.
Yeah. Whereas like I couldn't go out trick or treating now as like a 24-year-old,
Right.
but there are those things where I miss like that magic, and that's why I like Halloween so much, and like this whole holiday block. But like Halloween specifically because it's like there are so many little facets you can indulge in, and I do think there is something for everybody. Even when people are like, oh, like white girls love the fall, and it's like, why wouldn't you?
What don't you
there
love
are
about,
so
like,
many good excuses to get your friends together, whether it's dressing up or going apple picking or having like a tasting at like a brewery with like Oktoberfest things.
You do like you do kind of like a backyard fire. I think
about
when
pumpkin
you're
carving, watching scary movies, things like that. Like there are
making
so many.
s'mores.
Yeah, there are so many cozy activities. I think like the fall is ripe for bonding, and I think we should all do more of it.
So I think one of the things you said that made me think about one of my probably more recent fall memories is, I mean, we've been in Texas now I guess it's almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm. It is 4 years exactly. You guys posted on Facebook.
That's true. We started our official journey started in early September of 2018. But like just prior to that, having friends who had smaller children, one of the things that we had started to do that I really enjoyed before we left was our friends Matt and Mary have 3 kids, like 2 younger boys and an older girl. And one, they live in a fantastic neighborhood. But like before they moved into their current neighborhood, they would take their kids around to their older neighborhood, and Matt would have this basically a mobile bar. Like, this was a thing I'd never even heard of.
Oh my God, there's so many of these Minnesotans like set up their like drinking stations even in their garages.
Well, they do their drinking stations in their garages so that like you can come around and visit. So for the parents that are just handing out candy, they're like, oh, and get a nip while you're here.
Yeah.
Matt had like a little, basically it was a like a radio flyer wagon that had like different drinks on it. And I was like, well, shit, I'm going to get in on this. So what I would do is make my Martha Stewart, essentially my mulled wine, like you were saying, and I would put in all my own my own spices. So I would put in, you wouldn't have been able to drink this, cinnamon sticks and star anise and like cut
all the things I put in my pot to boil to make my apartment smell good in like fall.
It was it smells amazing in the house. You would serve it hot. I'd put it in these 2 big thermoses, and it was fairly boozy. And we would just literally we would just piggyback on there, like, oh, we're walking around and drinking, and it's outside. So it's like you put on coats because it's Minnesota. It's cold in October, so suckers. But you walk around. You have your coat on. You have your gloves. You have your hat. I'm dressed for fall right now. You can't.
Me too.
If you're not,
I'm wearing a tank top.
I went themed. I'm wearing my flannel and I'm wearing my knit hat for the fall feels. But you would dress up, you'd get cozy, you drink your hot mulled cider or your mulled wine, and walk around and watch the kids like lose their minds until they get fussy and cry and they're done and they want to just like, will you carry me or will you put me in the wagon? And I think those are
just fun.
Those are great.
Those are core memories.
Those are great.
Will.
Those are great memories, and I think as you then transition out of the fall, I definitely it ties me into the foodie nature of it. Like I know you love Halloween, I love Thanksgiving. That's always been a huge part. Just cut that.
Yep. Okay.
You can cut the core memory part.
But no, I just think the fall is just such a great time, like we said, for bonding and connection. And so anybody who doesn't like the fall, boo on you. Haha. Pun intended. But I think that's a great place to end it. As always, you can find us at FatherDaughterEXP on TikTok and Instagram, Father-Daughter Experience on YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Feel free to leave us a follow, a like, a subscribe, and a comment or a nice review so other people listen too. Have a great one, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.